The science of stupid. Warning, you're going to see unscientific people performing unsafe stunts. So don't do as they do as I say. And don't try any of them yourself. It's the science of stupid. Yes, this is the show that finds science in stupidity. Over the next half hour, we'll be dissecting the hard science behind the hard knocks. We'll reveal what went wrong and why by exploring the scientific principles behind all the lunacy. Principles such as rotational inertia and angular velocity. And we'll be examining the consequences of dicing with the elements, like earth, wind, and fire. So don't just rely on blind luck. Trust in science. The science of stupid. In this show, we'll be looking at a real stick in the mud, hydrodynamics, and equilibrium, or lack of. But before all that, this. For me, cycling's all about getting from A to B at a nice, steady pace. It turns out that not everyone sees it the same way. You won't see that in the Tour de France. Is he cycling or pogoing? On low-slung bikes with tough frames, urban bikers are doing their crazy bunny hops. But it seems not all bunnies can hop. So if you want to perfect a bunny hop and avoid the bunny flop, check out the science. A bunny hop is all about using body weight to get the perfect trajectory in the air, partly by controlling the way a bike pivots on its wheels. Shift your body weight back to pivot on your back wheel and lever your front wheel off the ground. Scoop up the rear of the bike with your feet while shifting your weight forwards. Shift your center of gravity towards the middle to avoid pivoting forwards on the front wheel. And do wear a helmet. It really can be dangerous. Remember, it's about body weight, pivots, and generally trying to land on both wheels without falling and hurting your head. Yay! Like that. But not that. Yes, a trampoline can increase your jump height, but it's a bit unorthodox. The real pros just use their legs. This probably isn't a pro, but let's give him a chance. What do you get if you cross a fire hydrant with a bike? That. A late takeoff means his wheel hits the hydrant before he can scoop the back up.
You alright, dude?
And remember what I said about wearing a helmet. Now, leaning back is correct, but overdoing it is, nuts. And he'd second that. Getting it right once isn't always enough. The first effort is textbook. There's even a little grind in the middle. On the second go, he leant back nicely, but failure to move his weight forward meant that he didn't get enough scoop to lift that back wheel. Oh yeah, one more thing for all the more expert bunnies out there. Dropping from a greater height means greater damage. He gets his rear wheel pivot spot on, scoops nicely, adds an impressive twist. But here's the hard bit. Falling from this height equates to a much greater impact force on just one wheel. Doubling your height doubles the energy of impact. And when you're going backwards, that's sometimes asking just a little too much. Bored of skiing and snowboarding? Tired of water skiing? Well, why not combine the excitement and injury potential of all three? We're talking about the Slush Cup. It may sound filthy, but it's actually quite cleansing. Look. In this event, skiers and snowboarders hurtle downhill to gain enough momentum to skim right across a body of slushy water. More importantly for us, it regularly goes horribly wrong. But if you prefer warm, dry and retained dignity to cold, wet and humiliated, here's the science. The water forces the skis upwards so they don't sink. This is called hydrodynamic planing. Double the surface area in contact with the water and you'll double the upwards force. Doubling velocity quadruples this hydrodynamic force. With enough speed and contact area, you plane across the surface of the water. Without enough, you sink. I am told it's a devilishly complicated equation, but put simply, optimum speed plus a large surface area equals a perfect glide. Nice. But here's a few things that won't help with speed. Sitting down. Wiggling around. Going backwards. Overdressing. And inevitably showing off. Generous scores, in my opinion. Maybe they should have just made the pool shorter? But with great speed comes greater need for control. Remember, I said optimum speed, not maximum speed. Mess this up and you'll not only be cold, you'll be out cold. He was fine, eventually. Wet, but fine. Of course, speed isn't everything. For hydrodynamic planing, you need a large surface area in contact with the water. It's about nailing that landing angle. A nice flat angle between board and water, and you're away. This is not a good angle. 90 degrees results in barely any of her ski's surface area hitting the water. Nice big splash, though. OK, at the risk of stating the obvious, you're after the surface area on the bottom, not the top of the skis. This unicyclist is about to attempt a jump into the unknown. But what scientific insight is he about to gain? This unicyclist is about to discover that tempered glass breaks explosively. Its strength comes from a heat treatment that locks extreme pressure into the glass, as much as 10,000 psi, so when pushed beyond its limits, its failure is total. Like this. What's tall, heavy, has humongous tires and goes pretty much wherever it wants? I'll just show you, shall I? Monster trucks. And what's the problem? All that height, weight and rubber makes them an absolute beast to control. But a little science can set you on the right track. Big tires make monster trucks very tall. If they don't have a wide wheelbase to compensate, their center of gravity will be too high for stability. Double the height of a truck, and you halve the G-force needed to topple it. So, that high center of gravity, how big a deal is it? What's the risk of tipping when plowing through a load of speed-sapping mud? Will the truck be okay? Nah. A little ditch is all it takes to flip this top-heavy truck. Don't worry, he's fine. Uh-oh, here come the autograph hunters. Now, here's some speed. Careful, remember, the higher the truck, the less G-force needed to topple it. Sometimes all it takes is a little speed, a minor technical glitch, and a tight turn. Shedding a wheel is one way of lowering centre of gravity, but he won't be getting very far. Oh, careful, sir. Now, one thing you really need speed for, and plenty of it, is a backflip. Yep, I said backflip, and then I said it again. In order to launch 4.5 tons of machinery into a somersault, it needs to be travelling at well over 30 miles an hour. If you think this looks a bit slow, you'd be right. The greater the mass, the greater the force needed to spin the truck. So, once this guy's pulled right back, he needs to floor it. Oh, what happened? He throws away all that lovely velocity here, and so winds up less monster truck and more dying beetle. The steeper the ramp, the greater the rotation before takeoff, but you'll need to get plenty of traction on those back wheels. And that is all the more reason not to dawdle. But if you are going a bit slow, there's nothing like a set of big bouncy tyres to get you back on track. Well, that worked out quite well. Now do it again. Back at school, the best way to fell a bigger lad was always a swift kick to the unmentionables. Add a few years' training, and the power of a kick becomes far more dangerous. Roundhouse kicks, for example, have been measured to generate 3,000 pounds of force. But with great power comes great pain. Same old schoolyard trick, just applied in a less direct fashion. Now you know how hard it can be. You want to make sure you've got your accuracy spot on, and that's down to balance. To stay balanced, all the forces acting on the kicker's body must be aligned and equal, as in this sparring stance. He uses force to accelerate his leg and strike his opponent. A faster kick has greater momentum and delivers more force in the impact. But all that momentum can unbalance him. So when kicking, he swings his arms in the other direction to counterbalance the kick's momentum and keeps all the downforce of his weight passing through his support leg, with his foot rooted firmly to the ground. Remember, a roundhouse kick can generate 3,000 pounds of force. Most of us won't get near that, but kicking is still a serious business if you get it wrong.
Wait, stop.
Leaning back helps to kick higher, but moving your centre of gravity backwards makes it even more difficult to balance. Well, there's no need to be smug. She did that to herself. Remember, keep your centre of gravity over your feet. Oh. Try not to lose contact with the ground. Planting a foot helps to keep you anchored. I said a foot, not a toe. Screaming doesn't help either. Now for an aerial kick. You have to balance all the forces acting on you when you land. Tricky when your opponent is making minor adjustments with his hand. Another thing that can really affect your balance. Impact. If you're going to practice office karate, it's one thing being light on your feet. Just remember the light above your head. It's simple. Get your balance right and you'll nail your kick. Just don't nail your friend. That's not polite.
Him in the head.
There are many big questions on which the world's greatest thinkers have pondered. What was there before the Big Bang? What's the meaning of life? What's an airfoil? I can't help with the first two, they're just really difficult. But I do know what an airfoil is. Paragliders and hang gliders are airfoils. They work like wings and enable these daredevils to soar through the sky. But this is not our natural environment. If God had meant us to fly, he'd have given us wings. And you can see why he didn't. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to fly an airfoil, but a little understanding of aeronautical science will go a long way. Here's one explanation of how airfoils create lift. The shape of an airfoil forces air to move faster over it than under it. This increases pressure below the airfoil, creating lift. To steer, pull down on one side of the airfoil, which brakes and makes you turn, but your drop speed increases. To land, you lower the back of the airfoil to increase wind resistance and brake. Get this wrong, and you could crash. So, first things first, if you want to make a turn, pull on the sides of the airfoil to steer. He looks confident. He'll need to make tiny adjustments by pulling to either side to land between the trees. Or do nothing and end up like a fairy on a Christmas tree. This is more promising. He's spotted a nice snowy clearing over there, which is perfect for a soft landing. He needs to decrease air pressure on the appropriate side to hit a tree. Oh. Better. No trees or bushes to get in your way, just acres of sky. The Statue of Liberty. Doesn't she look great from up here? Although on closer inspection, rather less appealing. Once you've mastered steering, it's time to perfect a controlled landing. Oh, that's looking anything but controlled. A low-level turn increases his descent speed. And as he comes into land, it's too late to pull back on the chute, so his only means of braking is a marquee. In summary, carefully control the air pressure on the sides of your airfoil to turn and maximize the wind resistance as you land for a graceful touchdown. Am I inviting trouble by suggesting this looks pretty good? Yes, I am. Even in the middle of nowhere, you can't escape the curse of the white van. Amazingly, he sustained only bruising. Not the driver, the paraglider, but they were both shocked. For most people, the basic idea with a car is to use the engine to provide drive to the wheels and actually go somewhere. Turns out some people aren't so bothered about the moving bit. Welcome to the world of the burnout. A burnout is when you apply the brakes to one set of wheels and spin the others. You can do it in a car. You can do it on a bike. Just don't do it on your tummy.
God, it sucks so bad.
No, it's not suction. We're talking friction. They're different. If you've little else going on in your life and you feel inclined to try a burnout yourself, don't. It'll cost you a fortune in garage bills even if you do it right. To get a burnout right, the driving force of the driven wheels cannot exceed the friction provided by the non-driven wheels. If the force on the driven wheels is greater than the friction between the tyres and the road, they'll fail to gain traction and spin instead. Time to get some new tyres. Here's someone after plenty of driving force but minimal friction. A helping hand from his friends enabled that rear wheel to gain traction, and off he went. If you're keen to see more friction in action, pop round the next time he sees his mates. It doesn't take much extra friction, you know. Just one friend will do. And what a friend. If you're going to up the friction anywhere, it should be on the stationary wheel. So the big lad at the front is doing him a favor. There you go. Success. Yeah. Although it's not great for the bike. Here's an unplanned burnout that can ruin your day. And your gearbox. That soft mud is so slippery that the wheels just spin like crazy, but it's also deep enough to prevent the truck from moving forwards. As the wheels fail to make any purchase, something under the bonnet is causing a major meltdown. Not a definitive burnout, but I can smell the burning from here.
Fire extinguishers! Fire extinguishers! Get out of there, Harold, now!
You can actually move forward slowly whilst performing a burnout by allowing the driving force to just overcome the friction. But not by that much. Quit while you're ahead. It's not scientific, it's just common sense. That's enough stalling, singeing, slapping, slushing, smashing and smacking. I'm having myself taken into protective custody in case one of our hapless heroes asks me out for a spin. But I won't ignore the safety warnings. This is as close as I'm getting to the science of stupid.